Happy Wednesday, folks, and welcome to episode 430 of #AskGSM here today for Wednesday, February 23rd, 2022. I'm Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and having a great week. Another busy week. I'll actually be at AEW Dynamite tonight in Connecticut in Bridgeport, which I'll be looking forward to. I am looking forward to. So this show will be on the shorter side. One quick cheap plug, though, or actually like two, I guess. We've had two interviews go up here on the channel in the last week since we last spoke here on # on Wednesday. The Raw Women's Champion Becky Lynch here on the channel last Friday talking all about Elimination Chamber, WrestleMania, Ronda Rousey, Ric Flair, and all this other stuff. So really fun chat with Becky here on the channel from Friday. Check that out in article form over on Bleacher Report as well. And we also had today AEW star, speaking of AEW, Matt Hardy, talking all about his new podcast, his AEW run, reuniting with Jeff Hardy soon, and a lot more. That was a top, 3 bucket list interview for me. I've wanted to interview Matt, I'm not even kidding, for the last decade, and I have bothered him for years about it. I remember meeting him for the first time 10 years ago, June of 2012, and asking him when I met him for the first time if he was doing interviews. And, he's great. He follows me. We've gone back and forth over DM, spoke in person about it. It was never the right time. He's just a super busy guy. And we were able to finally work it out to talk about his podcast this past week. So that is up right now in video form here on the channel from today, went up first thing this morning. And it's also up in article form right now on Bleacher Report. So keep an eye out for both of those interviews. Check them out if you haven't already. If you want to send in a question to the show, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Leave a question on the post that I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And be sure to find the comment section down below and drop your question there, and I'll be sure to include it in next week's edition. One quick note, I've already talked about this before in another video or two in the last couple of days, but the channel is now known as just WrestleRant. Graham GSM Matthews, that URL still works, youtube.com/C or youtube.com/Graham GSM Matthews, whatever. But you can also just go to youtube.com/WrestleRant. And I think it's a lot simpler. I want to get everything under the WrestleRant brand name, so to speak. I hate, the word brand is kind of cringy, but the website, my Twitter handle, the podcast, everything will be WrestleRant for the most part. Facebook, I don't know if I can change from Graham GSM Matthews to WrestleRant. I'll probably leave that as is. But the Twitter, YouTube, website, all now WrestleRant, which makes it a lot simpler for me to say and promote and stuff like that. So hope you guys appreciate the changes as well to the picture, the banner picture on the channel as well, and all that other cool stuff. So don't be alarmed. This is the same channel that you've been subscribed to for a while, I would have to assume. And if you're not already subscribed, then please do so. You're greatly missing out on all this daily content from Q&A videos like this, podcast excerpts every Thursday. We do preview videos, review videos, watching old pay-per-views. I break down SmackDown in audio form every Saturday. I already mentioned the interviews. We do Marvel stuff, Star Wars stuff. We're doing a Book of Boba Fett review very soon here on the channel, so keep an eye out for that. And a lot more. We break down Raw Talk, Talking Smack, all the stuff I watch on the WWE Network. I actually just watched Broken Skull Sessions with Ron Simmons on Monday, went up on Friday. The episode did on Peacock. I watched it Monday, broke it down that day, and it was great. So if you're not already subscribed, please do so, and hit the bell button to be notified every time a new video goes up. I said earlier this would be a shorter show than usual. I got to stop jibber-jabbering here and let's get right into it. Starting with Kyle Rochelle19 from Twitter. Actually, let's start with the Facebook questions first, just so I don't forget. Noel, their first question was, who should be the one to induct The Undertaker into the Hall of Fame? We literally just spoke about this on Wednesday. The first thing I thought of, and I'm not a prophet for predicting it. I didn't say when it would happen, but we literally spoke last week here on the show. I forgot who it was that asked me, but The Undertaker, is he going into the Hall of Fame this year? It's mid-February. Why haven't we gotten an announcement yet? Usually they announce that stuff. I remember they announced the NWO and Batista for the 2020 Hall of Fame, which obviously didn't end up happening due to the pandemic. They announced them, NWO and Batista, in one collective announcement in December of 2019. Now, usually it's not that early. Usually it's around January when tickets for the Hall of Fame go on sale. They're on sale now. They probably just didn't know what they were doing until this past week. It will be included as part of the SmackDown taping because SmackDown's on Friday, and usually they would do it on Friday or Saturday. WrestleMania being 2 nights now and SmackDown being on Friday kind of fucks up the WrestleMania schedule from years past. So they're just doing the Hall of Fame and SmackDown in one night. Sounds like a long fucking night. I'll probably go. I mean, The Undertaker's induction should be great, but I've actually never been to a Hall of Fame before. I've been to 3 WrestleManias, never a Hall of Fame. Just to say that I've been, I'll probably go. But anyway, so I love the video package. I've watched that probably 5 or 6 times since Friday. It's such a great video package. Honestly, one of my favorites ever. Like, we talk all the time about, what are some of the greatest video packages ever? That's one of them, in my opinion. At least one of my favorites. Who should induct The Undertaker? I saw Solomonster say that it could be like a variety of people, and I actually really liked that idea. I think he had pitched Kane, Shawn, and Mick Foley, like his 3 greatest rivals. And Vince, if he could actually speak and if we can actually understand what the fuck he was saying. But Vince would make sense because The Undertaker is his greatest creation, the greatest character of all time, I would say, that he made from scratch. Like even someone like a Hulk Hogan was kind of doing the Hogan stuff. That's a great WWE creation, but Hogan kind of got to start in AWA. Taker was doing stuff in other companies, including WCW, before coming to WWE in 1990, but the whole Undertaker character started in WWE, and it lasted 30 years. 30 plus years, but we're talking about his in-ring career here. You could do that. I would love if the entire, Hall of Fame was dedicated to solely The Undertaker. I'm not even really sure who else they would induct this year. It sounds like, from what I said on Raw Talk, they will induct more people. Jackie Redmond had mentioned, maybe they mentioned this on Raw as well, that he was the first inductee into the 2022 class for the WWE Hall of Fame. So that makes it sound like there will be more names announced probably as soon as Friday, if not next Monday. Usually they like to drop it on like a big news day, on a big news dump day. So we'll probably find out soon. Like Michelle McCool would make sense. As far as other men, there are a lot of people that are worthy and could be inducted. I just can't think of any off the top of my head right now. I would dedicate the entire ceremony to Taker and having people like Shawn, Kane, Foley, all of his other greatest rivals speak. Some of the people that we got to see actually at Survivor Series a few years ago when he had that final farewell at Survivor Series 2020, I think that'd be cool. If it was only one person, I would say Vince, but again, I just feel like you can barely even understand the guy at this point. It would likely be Kane, because when I think Taker, I think Kane, personally. Vince would make sense if this was like 5-10 years ago, but it's 2022 and the guy can he just doesn't look great and you could barely understand what the guy's fucking saying. So I don't know if I would go with Vince, although that would be a good choice. And I don't know if he likes doing that stuff anyway, although he does appear on Raw every now and again with Austin Theory backstage, but that's another issue. I'd probably go with Kane. Shawn or Foley would both be great choices. Ultimately, it's up to The Undertaker, I would have to imagine, but I would say Kane if it was only one person. Their second question, what are your top 5 Undertaker matches and moments? Great question. I mean, you got 30 years worth of moments. We got a great look at most of them in that video package that aired like 3 times over the course of Friday, Saturday, and Monday on WWE TV. But, my favorite matches, the top 2 would obviously be the matches with Shawn Michaels. I mean, especially since those happened in my wrestling fandom lifetime. I started watching wrestling in 2008. I started watching WWE in 2008. So that was like my first WrestleMania as a fan. I didn't watch the show. I was grounded, I think, so I couldn't go watch the show over my friend's house. Bad report card, folks. Do well in school. So I had to resort to watching, not a live stream, but watching a live chat on the WWE Universe. It was like their version of Facebook back in 2009. Their live chat of the show. And I remember just freaking out, reading the chat, reading how good the match was. Oh, this person kicked out. And that was back when people didn't really kick out of finishers as frequently as they do now. So it was a big deal. And I remember getting the DVD for my birthday, months later and rewatching it, that match, and just being amazed. The rematch I thought was as good. Not better, I would say the first one was better. The second one I would still say is probably the greatest WrestleMania main event of all time, in my opinion. Taker and Shawn too. So those are my top 2 favorite Taker moments. Again, I don't know what you mean by top 5 as far as whether my favorite or the best. Whether it's the best or favorite, I would still put those in the conversation. For favorite, I started watching, like I said, in 2008. One of the first feuds I can remember watching when I first started watching SmackDown in 2008 was Edge and Taker over the World Heavyweight Championship. It was the back half of it. I missed the entire build of WrestleMania 24. But it was after Taker became champion. They had all their matches at Backlash and Judgment Day, One Night Stand, and they were great matches, as well as that Hell in a Cell match at SummerSlam that year. Another match I really fucking love. So that would probably be on my own personal list. I don't know about of all time. Obviously, the Hell in a Cell match with Shawn from Bad Blood 97 One of my favorites and one of the greatest Taker matches ever. One of the greatest matches, period, I would say, in that company's history. Him and Shawn fucking killed it in the first ever Hell in a Cell match. That would be on there. Obviously, him throwing Foley off the top of the cell at King of the Ring 98 would be another all-timer moment. His debut at Survivor Series 1990, a lot of cool moments in between there. American Badass in the 2000s. I love the Triple H match at WrestleMania 17. I love the 27 match I didn't love originally. It has grown on me now that I've seen it since then a few more times. The 28 match is still one of my favorites ever. So I would still put that in my top 5 of all time. The end of an era Hell in the Cell match with Shawn Michaels, Triple H, and Taker, with Shawn as the special guest ref, is one of my all-time favorite matches. I love that WrestleMania. I love the build to that match. I love the match itself. It's not an in-ring technical masterpiece. And I think that was actually the match that Bret Hart called 4 out of 10, which is hysterical. I think that was more of a slight on Triple H than it was Taker. But I love that match. And that would be in my top 5 as well. Even in recent years, I love the Boneyard match. I thought that was a fantastic match. The cinematic style was the way to go. We'll never know how good of a match it was going to be in the ring. And I hope we never do. I really hope that was it for Taker at this point. But that was a great way to go out. I enjoyed the CM Punk match from WrestleMania 29. The Brock match at Hell in a Cell 2015. Both of their matches in 2015, SummerSlam and Hell in a Cell. I actually like the rekindling of that rivalry when they brought it back because they had some really good matches that year. I'm trying to think what else. Obviously, there's got to be more that I'm just not thinking of right now. Obviously the match with I enjoyed the match. I was going to say the one with Kurt from Mania, but that was at No Way Out. And I'm thinking of Kurt and Shawn from 21. But him and Orton also had a really good match at WrestleMania 21. I thought that was a great match too. Those are some of the matches and moments that come to mind. I don't know if I could put together a concrete top 5, but those would be my top 5 personally. Now we transition over to the Twitter questions. We start with at Kyle Rochelle 19, like I said earlier. Their question was. And I didn't put these in a document yet, so if I say someone's username and then go back to their username later on, that's why. Usually when I put the document of questions together, I put everyone's questions in one category. Like if John Ritland asked a few questions and then I kind of put them all together as opposed to spreading them out. So if it sounds spread out, that's why I just haven't done it yet. But anyway, Kyle's first question here. The whole feud between Becky Lynch and Bianca is when Becky beat Bianca at SummerSlam. First, what can both women do to make the feud interesting? I mean, it's subjective because I'm actually enjoying what they've done so far. We've only seen one segment out of them in recent weeks. They've gone back to it and mentioned the whole 26 seconds thing since August, obviously, because they did have that feud for a few months coming out of SummerSlam. You can mention that. I think they kind of laid the groundwork really, really well on Monday's Raw, with Bianca saying, listen, you told me to go to the back of the line, and I did, and I've proved myself. I won Elimination Chamber. I was the sole survivor at Survivor Series, which was a pretty pointless pay-per-view in retrospect. Not a bad show. I don't agree with the whole Meltzer thing. Oh, it was the worst show of the year. It wasn't that bad. Just because The Rock didn't show up, I mean, what the fuck? Who cares? But, at least it shows that match wasn't pointless because she was the sole survivor, and it's worth bringing up, and she has had a lot of big wins since then over Nikki Ash and Tamina and Doudrop and all these other women, Rhea Ripley now in the Gauntlet last week. So she deserved that opportunity, and I'm glad that they're going back to it. They could always try to put more heat on Becky between now and Mania. You got to fill out 6 weeks of TV time, obviously, so they got a lot of time to go. Hopefully they can maintain the momentum. I think the biggest issue last year with the Sasha and Bianca feud, I really liked the WrestleMania match and actually their feud in the summer more. The issue with the Mania match for me, not just that it was babyface versus babyface. Sasha is just so much better as a heel. They didn't turn her before Mania, and that was fine, but they just spent the entire road to Mania fucking teaming against Shayna and Nia for the tag titles. They did that match twice. They did on 2 different pay-per-views, and they lost both times. It's what the fuck are we even doing here? So I don't think they're going to go that route. Becky's certifiably the heel. Bianca is certifiably the babyface. But hopefully they can just maintain the momentum because I think the match and the story writes itself. It sells itself. And I think they can just kind of keep this up. And when I say they, I mean WWE. It's not really up to the women as far as what segments they're put in and what they're given to say and shit like that. As long as they can maintain this momentum, I think their match will be, as far as the build goes, it'll be interesting. And I'm looking forward to the match itself as well. At Reborn Again, John Ritland from the Twitter machine. Check out his YouTube show as well. Real Honesty with John Ritland does awesome work. Be sure to check it out. and real honest rant and thoughts and everything else he's got going on this channel. His first question was, so Logan Paul is in a match at WrestleMania 38. Why? I mean, they like their celebrity involvement. I'm not excusing it. I'm not a fan of it. I saw them. I'm like, what the fuck, man? Like, the thing is that it seems like we're already getting celebrity involvement in me. It's not even the fact they have celebrities at WrestleMania. Obviously, WrestleMania 1 had celebrities on the show. We've had celebrities in almost every WrestleMania for the last 30 fucking years. Almost 40 years, really, at this point, which is crazy to think about. I mean, there was a fucking celebrity in the main event of WrestleMania 1. That doesn't exactly bother me. But, like, at this point, to me, you have a deep enough roster. I know it's 2 nights. I feel like you have a deep enough roster to where you can use people on your show, make them interesting, and give us fresh feuds. Like, last year, we didn't really have a lot of celebrity involvement. Logan Paul was on the show. He didn't wrestle, though. He was in the corner of Sami Zayn for Kevin Owens. We might be getting Johnny Knoxville on this show. Like, last year, we had Bad Bunny. I didn't give a fuck about that going in, but they ended up having a pretty decent feud and a great match at Mania. Logan Paul, for all we know, can go in there and have a kick-ass performance. I'm not saying that he won't. I'm just saying, first of all, I don't give a shit about Logan Paul. Second of all, it's just, I don't know. I would, like, if you had John Morrison still around, they could have just put him in that spot. Obviously, it defeats the purpose because he's not a celebrity, so the match isn't as interesting in WWE's eyes. But they want to fill out the show with big names so people can watch it. You know what? If it gets more people to watch wrestling, so be it. I don't know how many of Logan Paul's fans will tune into WrestleMania just to watch him in a match. Maybe there will be. I don't know. To me, it's all about getting eyes on wrestling, and not just getting eyes on wrestling, but getting people to enjoy the product. Not watching it and thinking, well, this is fucking dumb. This is so stupid. Why did I give this a chance? I want people to actually watch the show. So if people that I know tune in because they hear Logan Paul's in a match and they're willing to give it a shot, then so be it. But I'm still not a fan on paper. I think there's a lot of people on the roster. I mean, the fact that Logan Paul has a Mania match before AJ Styles or Seth Rollins or any of those guys, to me, is just blasphemous, but that's just the current state of WWE for you. John's second question, what would you say is the best opening match in WrestleMania history? For me, it's Brett versus Owen at WrestleMania 10. I think we've answered this question before. I'm sure I have in years past, but yeah, I would probably agree. I think it is Brett and Owens from WrestleMania 10. There's a lot of great openers, and I'm sure I've gone down the list before. Not the only other one, but one of them that comes to mind is Daniel Bryan and Triple H from WrestleMania 30. Love that match. It wasn't what opened the show. That was the segment with Hogan, Rock, and Steve Austin, obviously Stone Cold. But the first match on the show was Daniel Bryan and Triple H. That was a fantastic opener. I also think back to Ray and Eddie from WrestleMania 21. Great match. The triple threat from WrestleMania 34 with Rollins, Miz, and Balor for the Intercontinental Championship. That was an excellent opener. Trying to think about the openers in recent years. I really like Bobby and Drew from last year. Wouldn't call it like one of the greatest openers ever, but it was a really good opener, I thought. Certainly not The Fiend and Randy Orton from the next night. I'll tell you that much right now. Those are the ones that stand out to me. I would probably still go with Brett and Owen, and not just because of the match itself, but the story being told and the fact that Brett lost there, and he went on to win the WWE title later on in the show. So that set up immediately, Owen Hart as the number one contender for the championship in the months that followed. So it was really smart booking, I thought. Those I'm trying to think of like other ones that come to mind. I mean, there's obviously more. 22, 23, 20, trying to think. 24, wasn't that the Belfast Brawl with Finlay and JBL? 25, I think, was the Money in the Bank match. I wasn't a big fan of that one. 26, I think, was a tag team title match. 27, 28 was the World Heavyweight title match with Sheamus and Bryan. That's certainly not one of the greatest matches of all time. 31, what was 31? That was another great opener, too. That ladder match for the Intercontinental Championship. I would probably, I don't know if that would lead the list, but it would come close, I think. That was a great match. I think there was a ladder match that opened WrestleMania 32 as well. Wasn't that when Zack Ryder won the championship? That was a great match. 33 was AJ and Shane. I don't know if I would put that in like the top 5, but that was a great opener too. So, yeah, there's been a lot of great openers over the last near 40 years of WrestleMania. I would go with Brett and Owen, though. I agree, from WrestleMania 10. Back to Kyle Rochelle, 19. Their question was, if Becky and Bianca do the match at SummerSlam in 5 minutes like last year, or if they did the match in like 5 minutes last year, would people really want to see this match that bad, or it doesn't matter? For me, I can't wait. I'm a fan of both women. They're great. So basically, I think he's asking is if they did the match like a formal match last year, would people really be hyped up this year? Yeah. The thing is that if they actually have a formal feud with a longer match and a clean finish at SummerSlam, it depends. If Becky still turns heel, then maybe. If they still have Becky go over and they screw over Bianca, and Bianca never gets her win over Becky, then I'm fine with them revisiting it. If it's like if they traded wins at that point and they already had a decisive finish to the feud and they just revisited it for WrestleMania, then no. It's not. I think people forget. Yeah, they had that 26-second match at SummerSlam. They didn't mention this on Raw this week. They did have other longer matches on TV after that. They had the match at Extreme Rules that ended when Sasha Banks came back, and that was a no contest. But they had a long match that night, and they had another match on Raw that Becky actually cheated to win back in November, and that was a great match too. And Becky won that one. So they have had longer matches. And usually I'd say, oh, we've already seen this match a bunch. Why are we seeing it again? This would be the fourth time they faced off. The first one was 26 seconds. The second one had a non-finish. The third one, Becky cheated to win, and it was on Raw. So I have no issue with them going back to it. It's been a while. It makes sense. Bianca is over. She has momentum. The story is there with Becky. I'm totally fine with it. So I think it depends on the circumstance. If Becky still cheats to win, then probably we would still be seeing this match. I don't want to justify the 26-second thing because I think the way they did it was stupid. Because it's like, I know Becky turned heel that night and whatever, which I don't know if I agree with still in retrospect. It's just the way that it was executed, I think, is the problem. I never said, I thought it was a fucking dumb booking decision. I don't think I ever said Bianca was buried, though. I saw a lot of people say that. I said it was damaging, but it's not something she can't bounce back from, and obviously she did. I think it was more so the fact that she went down with like an elbow and then like the manhandle slam finisher or whatever. Like, it wasn't even clear that Becky cheated. That's why so many people were upset and confused. Because it's like, okay, did she turn heel? Like, the fuck is this? Like, I blame more the booking than I did Becky Lynch from a character standpoint. Does that make sense? So, anyway, I'm looking forward to the rematch of WrestleMania, though. At Reborn Again, back to John. So, Elevation had 8 matches, 3 of which were 10-man tags. Just why? I understand they want to get more people on the show, but this is ridiculous. I haven't had a chance to watch Elevation yet from this week. I've just been backed up, but AEW at this point has so many fucking people on their roster. It's just ridiculous. Like, it's honestly a struggle for some of these people, shockingly, to find television time on Dark and on Elevation. I mean, that is crazy. The fact that they can't get television time on fucking Dark is just wild, and they have to shoehorn all of them into 10-man tags and shit. AEW has had an issue with like the 10-man, the 12-man tags before. They haven't done them a lot as much lately, but they've done them a lot in the past, and they're just not for me. When you do it once in a while, I'm fine with it. AEW, I feel like we see them way too often. 3 of them on Elevation this week being 10-man tags is just ridiculous. That is fucking ridiculous. So, I know more people, they want to get more people on the show, but at a certain point, enough was enough. Like you said, it's ridiculous, and I mean, I'm glad that Elevation and Dark this week were shorter shows. Elevation's always a shorter show, which is great. I don't know if you need all these multi-man and multi-women matches. It just seems like it's way too much for no reason, you know? At Iwagu91, their first question was, continuing from last week, would you like to see Adam Cole feud with Eddie Kingston? Yeah, why not? It's not really a feud that jumps out to me right now, but Eddie Kingston is the babyface, and Adam Cole's the heel, and Adam Cole talking shit to Eddie in the promos I think could be great, and the match could be pretty good too, so why not? Do you see Santana and Ortiz finally winning the AEW World Tag Team Championships this year? I feel like you can't do the story with them that they're doing right now, the Inner Circle, and then not have them win the titles at some point soon. Like, the whole point of the storyline is that, you know, that Jericho's holding them back. Okay, once they split away from Jericho, what is then holding them back? We got Jurassic Express as the current champions. Are they going to give the belts to... I like House of Black a lot. I don't know if I would give them the belts, though. I think Malachi is better suited in singles competition and just that Brody King team with, you know, the incoming Buddy Matthews or whatever. I would give the Lucha Bros got their moment. Jurassic Express got their moment. Like, of all the teams that needed a tag team title run have gotten it. Like, the Bucks got their tag team title run. I'm sure these teams can always get it back, but they got their run. The Lucha Bros got their run. Jurassic Express are having their run. Give it a couple more months, let them hold it for a little while longer. I would pull the trigger on Santana and Ortiz, maybe a double or nothing. I think that would make sense. If not, in the summer, all out at the latest, anything farther than that, they're not damaged goods, but it's like, if they're not going to win the titles or even go for the championships, then what the fuck is the point? You know? So I would have them win the belts in the next couple of months for sure. His next question, do you see Serena Deeb winning the female edition of the Owen Hart Cup? I don't really have any set predictions as of now, but I think that'd be great. I think Serena Deeb in the Owen Hart Cup, I think she is going to be in it, and her winning the whole thing, it makes sense. They're pushing her right now. They're doing the whole 5-minute rookie challenge. I'm a fan of it. I like what they're doing with her right now. So I think that'd be great. I mean, if she's not going to win either of the championships right now because they're both being held by heels, then the Owen Hart Cup in the next few months would be the next best thing. So I hope that's what they're going for with her. At Supersonic X 1991, what are your thoughts on NWA USA so far? I'm glad that they're showcasing some younger talent, but the storylines is something else. I'm not a fan of backstage interviewers feuding with wrestlers, which is a bad idea written all over it, which has bad idea written all over it. He's referring to the, I think it was Natalia Markova and, what's her name? May Valentine. She has a different name in reality, but on NWA it's May Valentine. Yeah, I don't give a shit about that. I don't think May Valentine's very good at all. I'm sure she's a nice person. Her interview skills are some of the worst I've seen in any promotion in years. I mean, they are just atrocious. I just think it's the wrong role for her. She comes off, as very awkward. Easy for me to say, I guess, right? In the interviews and even the sit-down stuff, and I don't know. I'm not really sure what the issue is there. She's just not very good. Natalia, you mentioned Natalia Markova a couple of weeks ago, and she has actually impressed me in some of her recent matches on Power and NWA USA. NWA USA wasn't exactly a necessary show, but it is a nice supplementary show to Power. It is more in-ring based, like more time spent on the matches, not as much on the promos. The stuff with like Raven and Medusa is, to me, fucking pointless. Like, who cares? But the actual matches have been largely good, and it's nice to see some people that we don't ordinarily see on Power. Now, if they can live up to their promise of making the national championship more of a focus on NWA USA, that would be even better. They haven't done any of that yet. That national championship is completely fucking pointless. Adonis has done nothing with it in months. So either take it off of him, give it to someone else, have him defend it, whatever. Make it like the championship of NWA USA. But either way, it's been a decent show so far. It's been better than I thought it would be, so I've been enjoying it to an extent. His second question, what are your thoughts on AEW's women's division and the direction it's going in this year? I'm impressed with Jade Cargill as the TBS champion, but I'm pretty much bored with Britt Baker as the champion. And what are the Joshi wrestlers? Are there any Joshi wrestlers in AEW anymore? I mean, there are. They're just not on Dynamite. Like, they have Emi Sakura routinely wrestle on Dark. I thought they brought in Ryu Mizunami. I thought moved to the U.S., but then I thought she moved to the U.S. and would be with AEW full-time moving forward. I haven't seen her at all in a while, so I don't know what happened with her. Riho got her. Hikaru Shida went back to Japan, I think, to go film a show or something. She won't be around for a little while. You know, I think they kind of over-relied personally on the Joshi wrestlers early on. That's not to say they can't have any Joshi wrestlers. Rio's established. Shida, I think, is great. She's established as well. Sakura, to me, is never going to be... She's just kind of there to put other people over on Dark, which is the right role for her. The other women can learn from working with her. She is not a focal point person. Like, I remember Riho and Sakura from Full Gear a couple of years ago and not giving a fuck. Ryo Mizunami was another one. I just don't really give a fuck. So if she's not on the show, I'm not complaining. As far as the rest of the division, it's definitely gotten a lot better. I think I've talked to this on the show before in the last couple of months, but, you know, they're giving the women more storylines. They're giving them more time. Rampage helps. It's not where it should be still, but the division has improved leaps and bounds in the last year or two, I would say. Having the TBS title helps. It gives Jade something to do, I guess. It's basically just the Jade prop, the Jade championship, but... You know, Jade is great. I think she's improving as a character. In the ring, she's improving. I think she's great as a character. And, yeah, with Britt Baker, I think she's dropping it to Thunder, whether it be a Revolution. I don't even know if I would do it a Revolution because the feud doesn't feel overly hot right now. I would probably wait to do it until Double or Nothing. I would have done the four-way. I don't know how you could justify it, but I would have done Thunder, Britt, Mercedes, and Jamie Hayter at Revolution because that just, to me, would have made more sense because they're teasing tension with all four of them. They didn't go in that direction. They're doing one-on-one. Maybe it gets changed. I don't think it will. Maybe Thunder wins it at Revolution. Either way, the endgame has got to be Thunder Rosa becoming champion. That is really the key here. So I'm liking what they're doing with the division. They still need more, not more women, but I don't know, like Ruby Soho doing nothing is just kind of underwhelming because I think she's really good, and her just being on Dark doing nothing is disappointing. So hopefully we get to see more of her soon. Like her and Nyla Rose, I don't give a shit. Like I know they tried to make that a thing. I don't really care. But still, they still have some ways to go, but it has improved in the last couple of years, I would say for sure. Their third question here, do you think Cody Rhodes will return during or after WrestleMania 38, especially with WWE continuing to tease Cody on Raw this week? Yeah, I noticed that with Miz and Edge all dropping little hints in their promos. On social media, WWE dropped a lot of hints. I think he's going to return before Mania. I think if you really want to sell out... Okay, listen. Cody Rhodes is not going to sell out on his own AT&T Stadium. He might claim that if... I could see. I mean, listen, Cody Rhodes can be a draw for WWE, I think. I wholeheartedly believe that. If Cody Rhodes comes in and they start selling more tickets, I think it might be more because of Stone Cold coming back, maybe in Texas, I don't know. But I could see Cody taking credit for that because that seems like a Cody thing to do. But I am a Cody fan. I think he should be at WrestleMania. Like, you need... The Raw roster is fucking... Listen, I think Raw's been a good show lately by Raw standards, by recent Raw standards. They have nothing going for them. Edge is just kind of throwing out open challenges, which is fine, but they have no championship to fight for. Bobby's out. It's a shame. Like, they took the WWE title and they're putting it in the Roman match. So now the Raw guys have nothing to fight for. So what do you do with AJ Styles? Does he face Edge? Cool, but then what do you do with Rollins? Is Owens facing Stone Cold? And if he isn't, what is he doing? What is RK Bro splitting up? Are they facing each other? So I'm not really sure what they're going for. And I think my point being, if you really want to fill out the card, Cody Rhodes can be a nice way to do that. Have him, go up against, what was I thinking earlier? Seth Rollins. I think we talked about that last week. I think Seth Rollins would be the perfect first opponent for Cody Rhodes back in WWE. You can play off of the whole, Rollins was the flag bearer for WWE. Cody Rhodes was the flag bearer for that other company. Now you're coming back here, all this other shit. I think it'd be really interesting. So I would do him and Rollins. I'm not really sure what else you do with Rollins otherwise. Bobby's out. The championship's over on SmackDown. The WWE title, that is, with Brock and whatever. Yeah, man, it's weird. It's weird. So I would do Cody and Rollins personally at WrestleMania. I think that would make the most sense. You could have him come back to Raw after. I know that's a post-WrestleMania surprise. I just feel like he's a big enough name to you would probably want him on the WrestleMania card, and they could use him. It's not like with Brock in 2012 where it's like, well, he came back to net after WrestleMania. Why wouldn't you have him at WrestleMania itself? I mean, they already had a full card for Mania 28. They didn't need Brock on that show. I would say I don't know if they need Cody at WrestleMania 38, but it would certainly help, though, to have him on the show for sure. At the Wrestle Guy, Sal has got a couple of questions here. First one being, pretty sure AJ Styles is on the top of everyone's list for who they would like Edge's open WrestleMania challenge to be. If it doesn't end up being Styles, who's some other options you would like to see it be? I know he dropped some hints of Cody Rhodes on Raw this week in his promo. I don't know why I struggled to say Raw there for a second. I forgot what the show was on Monday. I don't think Cody and Edge, to me, is a WrestleMania match. It's interesting, I guess. I don't know if that's the match I want to see. If it's not, I mean, I would say Bobby, but Bobby's hurt. He's probably not going to be back for Mania. It's looking likely that he won't be back for Mania, which is a fucking shame. Could you do, Edge and Rollins, they already did. I wouldn't go back to that. Honestly, there really isn't many other options. There really isn't. Like, looking at the Raw roster and thinking of the Raw roster, I would say Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens is another, if it wasn't AJ and Edge at Mania, I've said for months, if it wasn't Edge and AJ, then Edge and Owens would also make sense. Owens is a heel now. They're both from Canada. I know Owens has wanted to work with Edge and vice versa. And they had that, pretty good match at the MSG house show back in December that I was at, the day after Christmas. But it looks like Owens might be locked up with Stone Cold, which isn't a bad fucking consolation prize, obviously. So if Owens is going to be locked up either doing something with Rollins or Stone Cold, Edge would probably be third. So I wouldn't say Owens is an option or that viable of an option. Rollins is not an option for Edge. Been there, done that. Even as recently as a couple of months ago, there's no reason to revisit it. I don't really know. Like, unless they bring back a part-timer like a Goldberg or a Cena, I don't think Cena's going to be there. I don't think Goldberg, I think that would be, I have no interest in seeing Goldberg and Edge personally, but I guess it's an option. Who else do they even have on Raw? Like, like I said, they could bring in Cody. Can they call someone up before Mania? Like a LA Knight or something? I guess. I don't see that happening, but it's got to be AJ. I honestly don't really know what else he would do. Balor is interesting. Balor and Edge sounds like a cool match, but it looks like Balor might be locked up with either Damian Priest or doing something with the United States Championship. I don't think Edge is fighting for the United States Championship at WrestleMania. So I think it's got to be AJ. Like I said, Owens would be the second choice, but I think he's locked up doing other stuff right now. Sal's second question. With Reigns most likely winning at WrestleMania, how does WWE book themselves out of a corner? It isn't a unification match, he says, but I don't see Roman being a double champion for long. How do you get a title off of the most protected guy in the company who hasn't been pinned in over a year? He hasn't been pinned since fucking 2019. That's almost 2.5 years. It's 3 years, but he hasn't been pinned since December of 2019, so it's a little over 2 years at this point. I was thinking about that, it's got to be Roman who walks out with both belts. Because I think with Brock, it's even worse. Because with Brock, if it's not a unification match, and I don't think it should be. Honestly, at this point, maybe it should be because the rosters are so depleted. The brand split is basically pointless, so why the fuck not, I guess. But I don't know. If Brock wins, you got to get both belts off of him at separate occasions, unless they're merging the two titles. I don't see Brock losing 2 title matches coming out of WrestleMania. He's already lost at the Rumble and to Roman at Crown Jewel. I don't see that happening. So I think Roman's got to win. Not that Roman should be losing, but I think Roman, honestly, they should, and I honestly think they can keep the Universal title on him for a little bit longer. I know it's going to be 2 years by SummerSlam, but keep the Universal title on him. For the WWE Championship, I think he can lose it without getting pinned. I wouldn't have him get pinned for it. I would have him lose it in a multi-man match or a triple threat or something. Honestly, at Backlash or something, do Brock, Roman, and Rollins. I think that'd be fucking sexy. They should have done it at WrestleMania, obviously, but they're not going to. Rollins got F5'd and beaten in a matter of seconds at Chamber. That's just not happening. So that's what I would do. I would have him lose it. Then again, though, I say that, and it's would Brock get pinned by Rollins? Probably not. So I don't know. I'm not really sure what they do. Maybe if it's not Rollins, Brock, and Roman, they could do another multi-man match at Backlash or Money in the Bank or whatever. If they aren't unifying the championships, they shouldn't be having Roman beat 2 people on each pay-per-view to retain both titles or whatever. I just wouldn't do that. So I'm not really sure how they get out of it, to be honest. I'm not 100% sure, but I would think a multi-man match would be the way to go. His last question here. I know you're a big GM mode fan like myself. What is your reaction to the news of no mid-card titles, tag titles, or no multi-man matches in 2K22 and in the 2K22 iteration of my GM? Do you think it could still live up to the classic 07 version of it? I don't think it can. I still play that game. I actually just played it with Alexis the other day. She's Raw, I'm SmackDown. I've been playing it on and off for the better part of the last 12 years. The game came out in 06. I wasn't even watching wrestling back then, but I was first exposed to the game in 2009, and I've been playing it on and off ever since then. It's just such a great fucking game. I literally went out of my way to find and buy a PlayStation 2 simply to play GM mode in SVR 07. I am not even kidding. So, with that being said, it's just such a great game, and the actual features of my GM in the new game sound cool as far as buying an arena and all this other stuff, the draft and whatever. With a modern day roster, I've always said my GM could be legendary. The problem is, how do you not fucking have mid-card titles or tag titles? That to me is just bizarre. No multi-man matches? How the fuck do you not have triple threats or fatal four-ways? WWE does at least one multi-man match every fucking week on TV. So how do you not have a multi-man match or a 6-man tag? That to me is just bizarre. Does that mean they're not going to have Money in the Bank as an option and my GM is one of the pay-per-view matches? Are they not going to have Elimination Chamber matches? Rumbles? How does that just... Can you not... I don't get it. I really just don't understand that at all. I was disappointed when I read that. When I saw Regal was announced as a playable GM, I got very excited and I said to myself, this kind of made it worthwhile. So I'll take it. I think that's cool. But yeah, that was very disappointing. I don't think it'll live up to the 07 version or even 08 or 06. They do have the same features, but at least those games have multi-man matches. And those games have tag titles and mid-card titles. Those games have fucking cruiserweight and women's championships. They should have women's titles, obviously, but... The lack of mid-card title. They have a fucking cruiserweight championship in 06, 07, maybe 08 as well. I think they do have it in 08. I might be wrong on that, but I think they do have it in 08 as well. That's just bullshit. They don't have that. So I'm still excited for it. You know what? It's better than nothing. I'll do that over my universe or whatever. I don't like my universe mode or whatever the fuck it's called, WWE universe mode. I don't like that shit. It's better than nothing. Baby steps. If we don't get that shit next year, I don't know how you don't even get it this year, but I would be very disappointed. Last question from Misdemeanor 6. Their question was, during last week's edition, you mentioned that Dan Lambert shouldn't be in AEW at all. I think Jake Roberts also shouldn't be on TV, he also shouldn't be there well on TV, that is, since Lance Archer can do promos by himself. Do you agree? Yeah, Archer can speak. I like Jake as kind of like the corner man for Archer. At this point, he is kind of pointless, and Jake is older. He has health issues. I don't think he needs to be on TV really at all. Dan Lambert, I would say, shouldn't be on TV just because he's so fucking listen, I think Dan Lambert is great. He cuts his promos very well. He's a fan. The issue isn't with Lambert himself. It's the fact they have just completely overexposed him, and he has no credibility. He has managed nothing but losers since coming into the company. American Top Team, Lance Archer, Men of the Year have all been fucking losers. So why should I give a shit about Dan Lambert? That's the problem. It's also the same promo work week after week. They're putting him with the wrong people to work with. I just don't give a shit about Lambert, so that's why I don't really want him in AEW at this point. Roberts at least isn't overexposed. I think him and Archer are a fine duo, and it gets Jake on TV, and I'm happy to see Jake on TV. He just doesn't do a lot at this point, and his health issues have kind of become a problem, I would say. He had breathing issues at one point. He had COVID, so just to keep him safe, I would say don't put him on the show. But I would rather see Jake Roberts on the show, talking every once in a while and not being as overexposed as Dan Lambert. But that's just me. And that's going to do it, guys, for episode 430, not the time, the number of the show. Episode 430 of #AskGSM here today for Wednesday, February 23rd, 2022. Thank you guys, as always, for checking out the show. Like I said earlier, if you want to send in a question to the show, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Drop a question on the post that I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. So like I said earlier, guys, check out my interviews right now with Becky Lynch, the Raw Women's Champion, from last Friday here on the channel, and from today, my chat with AEW star Matt Hardy before AEW Dynamite tonight. Speaking of which, I got to get out of here. I got to get ready for Dynamite and do some other stuff. I'm excited. Have a great week, guys. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.